Welcome to Conversation with Zaki Baruti, with your host, Zaki Baruti. And like always, I want to give a shout out to my biological family, what's happening, to the Universal African Peoples Organization family, what's going on, and to New Life Evangelistic Center family headed by Reverend Rice. Keep up the great work. And a shout out to our amazing cameraman, Bob. On that note, we'll have a great show because in studio with me is a young man that has written a powerful book, which is entitled With My People, Life, Justice, and Activism Beyond the University. And that young man is Jonathan Pulphus. Welcome to Conversation with Zaki Baruti.
Thank you for having me, Zaki.
Okay, before I start all my interviews, I always like our audience to know a little bit of the background of the person I'm interviewing. Mm-hmm. So if you would share wherever you want people to know about Jonathan.
Yeah, so I'm, of course, an author, a facilitator, equity advocate, long-time North St. Louis City resident. I did all my schooling in St. Louis, even my undergrad experience, and just have a passion for doing the work for the people, which motivated me to write this book in part, really for young people coming up, so they can avoid some of the pitfalls and some of the mistakes I made coming up in the game. I had elders who poured into me, invested in me, reared me to perform at a standard of excellence, and I sometimes fell short of that. And so some of the hiccups and things I had along the way, I wanted to share that with young people so they avoid some of those pitfalls. But again, thank you for having me on the show.
Okay, thank you. Now, you did your undergrad where?
At St. Louis University.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, you made mention in terms of hiccups. What kind of hiccups, if you don't mind sharing, that you had?
So the book focuses on my experience navigating the Ferguson uprising, but also prior to just my upbringing in North St. Louis, which we all know is an area with a lot of dysfunction, if you will, really due to systemic neglect, high rates of homicides, unemployment, fragile educational infrastructure, all those different things. So growing in that can make some people want to crumble and stuff like that, but it motivated me to want to be a part and see a difference. And so I got really transported around to different, when I was in middle school, etc., to different automatic meetings, grassroots meetings and stuff like that. I benefited from the tutelage of black elders, particularly women like Queen Mother Ramona Taylor Williams, who founded a group called M-Slice. They address different public health issues, gun violence, different initiatives, particularly in what's the brother's name? Antonio French's ward. And they've done some redistricting since then. So right there by Yemen Market, Judy's store over there. And then my mama and then Mama Alyssa Mixon. So they always would expose me to information and expose me to the happenings in the community and encourage me to speak out, raise awareness in my own spaces and places. So I did that throughout school. And then, unfortunately, August 9th, 2014, Mike Brown was murdered by Officer Dan Wilson. And that created a whole different kind of spinoff in terms of being in the streets, facing militarized police, etc. But when I talk about the hiccups, really, I was 19 at the time. Mike Brown was 18. So imagine as a college student at the time.
What college?
At St. Louis University.
Okay.
So imagine as a college student at the time, being in the streets, going to work, going to classes, and then maybe partying a little bit too much and stuff like that. So experimenting with so experimenting with certain things, you know what I'm saying? That may be legal now, wasn't legal then. So I want young people to know it's all about balance, really. You know, have a good time, kick it, things like that. But at the end of the day, you need to get that degree. You know what I'm saying? You need to remember what you started and what you came there for. Because while whatever work you're doing, activism-wise on campus, that's important. The community needs you in the long run, and I want young people to know that.
I know that's right. Now, so the Mike Brown incident, first of all, did you know Mike Brown?
I didn't know him personally.
You didn't know him personally. Mm-hmm. So would you say that would have been one of the most important turning points in your life, the incident? I say that because I want to share something that happened to me.
Okay. I would say that it definitely, I was catalyzed to do this work prior to Michael Brown, as I stated, with my mom exposing me to different things, how to respond to the vicarious trauma happening in the neighborhoods, hearing gunshots and stuff, seeing my neighbors and stuff being picked up, for trying to make a living, even if it wasn't the most honest way, trying to make a living, going around some of the most sweetest people I know happen to do sex work stuff. You know what I'm saying? So being exposed in that environment. So when Michael Brown was murdered, I think what it really was is how they left his body in the street for 4.5 hours in the weltering heat,
right.
like August heat.
Right.
And then the response from both elders and young people, this intergenerational pool that came together, I think, was something I had never seen before.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, I had asked that question on the personal side because, like you, in my college years at Southern Illinois University, I was part of the Black student movement. In fact, we had seized the chancellor's office calling for Black studies and more Black faculty.
Right.
And that led me on the way of activism. But what really was a turning point for me was the murder and assassination of Fred Hampton and Mark Clark, the heads of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party. That, in fact, that motivated me to organize my very first protest in East St. Louis, which turned out to be a major protest. Incidents like that really sometimes galvanizes people at a whole nother level. Now, what motivated you? So, With My People, is that your first book?
Yes, this is my debut book.
Okay, your debut book. So what motivated you to write the book?
Yeah, so a few things. For one, if you weren't here like as we were and things like that, if you weren't here when everything was going on and you got all of your information from Fox News or even more progressive outlets like MSNBC, etc., all you saw regularly on the TVs were these sensationalized images of burning buildings, people looting, and all those different things. And you would think that was really all that was going on, but really it was a lot of relationships that were formed.
Right.
It was a lot of organizing that happened, a lot of de-escalation. Things could have been a lot worse if people hadn't intervened and stopped. You had people who were quote-unquote affiliated with gangs, stopping young people from breaking into stores and things like that. And not everything could be controlled and anything like that because it was unstable at the time. But at the same time, I want people to get a fresher image from my lens as a 19-year-old going through it, what was going on. The second thing is I want young people reading, as I stated earlier, to be able to tease out different organizing tips I leave for them. There were really lessons I learned from elders such as, in your peer group and stuff like that. I'm thinking about Mama Jamala, Mama Mix, Queen Mother Ramona Taylor Williams, etc., Percy Green. Really grab some of these gems I want to leave for them through the book. So those are a couple of reasons why.
Okay, on that note, we're going to have to take our break.
Do you have any idea how many people are having to sleep outside? Yes, viewers of the Zaki Baruti Show, you are being called into action at this time. Your help is urgently needed here at the New Life Evangelistic Center. Our teams are going out every day, and we need your prayers. We need your gifts here because we receive no city, state, or federal dollars. How many times I have to personally run to the store in order to just buy meat and bread? People could be making sandwiches and bringing them to the doors here at 2428 Woodson Road in Overland, Missouri. They could be buying cases of water and bringing them here so we can get these out to the homeless people. 2428 Woodson Road in Overland, Missouri. They could write out those checks and send them in because we have to buy this. They're depending upon us. And not only that, they get bus tickets, hundreds and even thousands of bus tickets distributed to so many people who need transportation assistance. We can't do it without each and every one of you. It's New Life Evangelistic Center, P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri. That's 63166. You give online at nlecstl.org. Your prayers are urgently needed at this time. Come on, you watch the Zaki Baruti Show. You hear about the various issues. Now it's important that we respond to those issues by helping so many people that have fallen through the safety nets in spite of the promises of the politicians. So many people are hurting right now. They're out there. They don't know where to go. What are they doing? I don't see hardly anything in St. Louis County, Jefferson County, St. Francis County. I can mention county after county, Madison County, St. Clair County. They want to ship them to St. Louis. St. Louis can't take care of all the problems. But we got to get all these other counties involved. In the meantime, we got to get your church involved. We need you. But let's get our churches involved. Let's reach out. Let's help those that Jesus referred to the least of these. After you've done to them, you've done it unto him. Let's help them right now. Please get involved. Call us at 314-421-3020 or share that much needed gift at P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri. That's 63166. You can give online at nlecstl.org.
Prayer really does overcome so many obstacles. And we're so thankful for how the Lord is using your prayers right now that you've lifted up for New Life Evangelistic Center to perform many mighty miracles. but our prayers are what should drive us to act. And so I want to invite you to work alongside New Life as well. You can partner with us with your talents, your treasures, and your time. Please join us for volunteer events that are going to be coming up. Or call 314-421-3020. Again, 314-421-3020. And by doing so, you will take the first step to really making a difference in the lives of thousands of people all throughout Missouri. How I thank God for our partners who have ministered for so many years to hurting people. We need you right now to get involved today. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Welcome back to Conversation with Zaki Baruti. In studio with me is Jonathan Pulphus, who is an activist as well as author of With My People, Life, Justice, and Activism Beyond the University. When you mentioned about Michael Brown, because, personally I was deep into it and never forget the day that he was murdered, that I went to the complex, which I actually used to live in that complex when it was under another management, and it was called the Village Apartment. And I never forget all of the armored cars, the police dogs, and all of the madness that was. And then, like you say, they allowed his body to just lay out in the streets for over 4 hours. Very inhumane. So, in going back to your book, though, I just want to highlight a couple of chapters. You got one chapter that says, "Does protesting work?" Does it work?
So really, that was that was my way of kind of just challenging myself to flesh out a response to that, right? Because obviously I believe it works.
Right.
A lot of people ask me when I do different talks with young people and I do different workshops and stuff like that, when they want to reflect on what happened in 2014, because a lot of these young people, their most recent focal point is George Floyd in 2020. And so they were every bit of maybe 8 or 9 years old when Michael Brown was murdered, or younger. They really want to know what were some of the gains that came out of the Ferguson uprising. And I think there's plenty. The issue is that I think the movement was really fractured. We had some people who passed away not due to natural causes. There were many deaths. I'm thinking about Darren Seals. We got our good brother Josh Williams still locked up for setting up back ships on fire.
Jonathan, Darren. Yeah. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And Darren Wilson murdered a boy in broad day and didn't sit a day in jail. But we all spent more time in jail than he ever did. I'm thinking about Bassem Massery, who was a journalist activist who documented and was really giving raw perspective and illustration of what was happening on the ground. Who allegedly dealt with some issues. He overdosed. So I think that the main thing when the question comes about whether or not protesting works, it's really about how we respond to the backlash and the repression from the state, and even personalities within the movement. Because even though we were all saying, justice for Mike Brown, that meant different. The process to get there meant different. All those different things.
So within, in terms of outcomes, what would you say? Share a few things that out of the protesting that you felt was a positive outcome of the protesting around the Ferguson crisis.
I'd say one low-hanging fruit is that we definitely saw a rise in progressive leadership, especially in the city, for example, but throughout the state and the region, too. So we had people who had no prior political experience whatsoever, who were in the streets holding bullhorns, who would then turn to be on ballots. I'm thinking about Alicia Sanye, who was in my group, Tribe X, who's now an alderwoman in the city of St. Louis. I don't think we get despite what people's feelings are about Tashara, I don't think we see Tashara, I don't think we see a Kim Gardner, all these different things without the intensity of what happened on the ground in Ferguson. Cori Bush, for another example. And I call him Chocolate McCullough, but the removal of Bob McCullough with Wesley Bell, I think that was also a movement victory. Now, I'm not really fond of him competing with Sister Cori for that seat.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, these are things we have to name. So in the electoral space, we have that. Right. On campuses, we saw what happened.
Wait a minute, let me add, though, right in Ferguson itself, you had the first black mayor,
then
you had the first black police chief. So those are, and so you don't have the harassment of the people going through Ferguson, which many people had been arrested on Bull, and so you did have some positive outcomes on that end. Okay, you got a chapter say we outside.
Yeah.
What are you speaking about that?
Yeah, so really that's a phrase that I got from my neighborhood. I stay in the Meadows of 23rd Street, lovely, in Hyde Park, Fairground Park. We outside is just a phrase that essentially states that we're present, that we don't plan on leaving, that we have staying power. And that's essentially what that space was on the ground in Ferguson. We weren't out there for a month or a couple of weeks and things like that. We were literally out there over a year.
Hey, I mean, I hate to, cause you taking me back, and I had to salute the young people. I never forget the closures of Interstate 44 being down there with the young people. Hey, any young person that was part of that, I salute you. I mean, on the real side, that was real tough. I want to get through as many chapters as I possibly can. Elbows, fast feet, and butt cheeks. What is that about?
Were you out there in the streets and the state is shooting, propelling tear gas canisters, using LRAD cannons and pepper spray and trying to tackle and arrest people and stuff. You saw a lot of fast feet, elbows, and butt cheeks happening. But at the same time, you also had people who were indignant and resistant. It was like, I don't mind going to jail. You know what I'm saying, and sitting for the 24-hour hold or whatever the case may be. So you had a lot of that going on.
Okay, now we got to take another break.
Behind me is the New Life Evangelistic Center administrative offices in Overland, Missouri. And this is where we shoot our shows for our worship shows and the Here's Help Network. And it's also where Zaki Baruti and Bernie Hayes shoot their shows. You can find all of these shows at the New Life Evangelistic Center app, the NLEC TV app. You can also access them on your tablet or on your computer. And this is how you can stay up to date with all the things that New Life Evangelistic Center is doing. There are so many different programs that we've got going on, and God is doing many exciting things through partners like you. So if you want to support the work that New Life is doing, then please access and give through the app. You can go online at nlecstl.org or give us a call at 314-421-3020. Again, 314-421-3020. But this is the best way to get plugged into the amazing work that New Life is doing through people like you. And so there is something for you to get involved in today. And we are so thankful for our partners. Only through the grace of God and your gift are we able to bless others today.
Welcome back to Conversation with Zaki Baruti. In studio with me is Jonathan Pulphus, and we're talking about his book, With My People, which everybody should get a copy of it because it's. I know it's a hot book. Okay, I know it'll be a #1 bestseller too. We claiming that, right? Okay, the same sheet of music.
So when we talk about the same sheet of music, really early, going back earlier to what I was saying about how while everybody may be on the same page of wanting justice for Mike Brown or wanting advancements in the Black freedom struggle, whatever that looks like locally where you are, there are different ideas on how to get there. And I think a lot of conflict emerged in the movement because you're talking about resources, right? It was largely a working class push, people who lost their jobs, either got kicked out of school, etc., to be out there, right? And so the question was, how do we, with all these different class differences, even though we all Black or we all trying to advance the Black freedom cause, how do we support and stand in solidarity with one another? Because that's needed. And I think being on the same sheet of music is, despite whatever our differences are, despite the personalities, the egos that come up and all those different things, how can we stand in solidarity and get wins for the community? And that's something I wanted to wrestle with in that chapter.
I have my ID and a lot of guests.
When I was at St. Louis University, one of the movement wins I didn't mention earlier when you asked was the Clark Tower course through St. Louis University. So my organization, Tribex, in connection with other organizations, were able to facilitate a week occupation of St. Louis University in October of 2014 that led the president of SLU at the time, Dr. Fred Pistello, to sign on to an agreement to advance equity, diversity, etc. I know that's a bad word nowadays with the national office, but we essentially wanted to increase in a city that's half black. How do we have an institution of education that pretty much sits as an oasis, where only 3 to 5% of the students enrolled are black? It doesn't make any sense to us. So we were pushing for increased access for black students, increased resources for black faculty and staff, increased funding for the African American Studies program, and some of these things were one. But like I said, there's still more things that can be done to advance that agreement that the university committed to, but that's the idea, my guess, when I was at the gates of SLU, that's how we got into the institution. I raised my ID and I said that exact phrase, and the security, the police officers and stuff, because I was a student and I had access, ended up moving out the way and letting us onto campus. It was thousands of us that got on, so yeah.
Right on, let me just do that, right on. And also of the game.
Yeah, so this is about that conversation I was having earlier about intergenerational perspective. I think instead of embracing one another, sometimes at times things can be really fractured between elders and those who are younger. But I think we need the wisdom of our elders and the fire of our young people to really come together to advance certain things. If we don't have that, then the young people are lost, and then the elders feel like they're not listened to or anything like that when they have seasoned experience and perspective. One advice that Mama Jamala once gave us at this.
And for our audience, Jamala Rogers, and we were co-chairs for the Coalition Against Police Crimes and Repression, but go ahead.
CAPCAR, and Mama Jamala would always say this is a marathon, not a sprint, right?
Absolutely.
So don't burn yourself out. Don't not take care of yourself because you're so caught up in what's happening in the moment, and we need you for the long run.
That's right. I'm at 78, so but y'all got to hurry up and make quote unquote the revolution become a reality.
We working on it.
If it's bigger than you or me, it ain't bigger than us.
That chapter's about really emphasizing togetherness, right? How do we come together like transformers and shut things down, essentially? We may wrestle with our own issues, and whether it be personal or work-related or community-related, whatever it is. But when we come together and we're not operating inside, because St. Louis can really, as small as the movement community is here, people still working it can be cliquish. It can be really in silos and stuff like that. There are organizations that come together in coalitions like the one you just named to try to leverage these different resources and different capacities and skill sets of different entities to accomplish certain things. But largely, and especially during the Ferguson Uprising, you saw a lot of cliques and stuff pop up. So the question is, all right, that's fine. If your personality clicks well with this group or that group, that's fine. But how can we still come together to make some meaningful change happen?
Absolutely. Ain't fattening no frogs for no snakes. But before you do that one, we got to take a break.
May God bless all you faithful listeners and viewers of the Zaki Baruti Show as you reach out and help those in need. Right now at the New Life Evangelistic Center, not only do we have to feed hundreds of people every day that are sleeping outside, but many that are coming to our facilities, for example, in Springfield, Missouri, and those that are getting help through our safe houses and outreach centers at the New Life Evangelistic Center throughout the greater St. Louis area. They all have to be fed, and they don't get their food stamps, they don't get direct assistance. We have to just continue to reach deeper and cry out further unto the Almighty God to work through caring people like you. So I'm asking you to please let God's light and love flow through you at this time. Bring your food to 2428 Woodson Road in Overland, Missouri, 806 North Jefferson, and Springfield. Please send your tax-deductible gifts now to New Life Evangelistic Center, P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri, that's 63166. And when you send your gift in, ask for a free copy of the new Zoa free paper, Celebration of Hope. All kinds of testimonials are in here, all kinds of inspirational articles for you during this holiday season. Again, please pray for New Life Evangelistic Center. Please send your much-needed tax-deductible gifts so we can feed the hungry and help the homeless. And to New Life Evangelistic Center, P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri, that's 63166. And when you do, ask for a copy of the New Life Zoa free paper, Celebration of Hope edition. your faith will be stirred, and you will have an opportunity to help so many right now that don't know what to do or where to go. We're encouraging them to trust in the Lord with all their heart. He'll never leave nor forsake them. And we're also directly trying to help them in their time of need. Please continue to pray for New Life Evangelistic Center. Please continue to share at this time, and know that your gift goes a long way as you pray, care, and share with the center that's on the front lines.
Welcome back to Conversation with Zaki Baruti. We only have a few more minutes with our guest, Jonathan Pulphus, author of With My People. And we're going to highlight one or two more chapters. You got to come back and we'll finish the rest of the book, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. You have a chapter that's entitled Ain't Fattening No Frogs for No Snakes. What are you talking about there?
Yeah, so essentially, there were individuals, I'll say, who were not sincere, right? Who came around on the ground because they saw the moment as a opportunity for self promotion or for self gain and self interest. But the fire and the sincere people, the people who actually wanted to see things move forward, were putting out all this labor, investing their time, treasure, talents, and stuff like that. And the idea behind that was that wasn't at a cost for nothing, right? That wasn't to be exploited or taken advantage of or anything like that. That was to advance, like I said, meaningful change. And so for people who, like I said earlier, the chocolate McCullough, if you will, who were able to get into these positions of power off the movement, only then to take money from an entity like AIPAC, and need I say more when it comes to the...
and when you say AIPAC, for our people to know AIPAC, and AIPAC had a direct influence in the election of Wesley Bell over Cori Bush, because Cori Bush, as you know, stood up to call out the genocide that was taking place in Palestine. So with that said, then, also I just want to add, part of the struggle is like the government itself sends in what we used to call agent provocateurs. Yeah. So finally, you're also the founder of an organization that's called Justice Cultivator. Okay, explain that one.
Yeah, so Justice Cultivator was my response to seeing young people being interested, especially young people who hadn't been exposed as I was coming up at a young age, or hadn't been catalyzed, as you named, from that moment with Fred Hampton, who wanted to see a difference in their community, wanted to figure out ways to get involved. And so what I do is I partner with different organizations, nonprofits, some governmental agencies, etc., to provide workshops on organizing on a rudimentary level, some organizing one-on-one. I also do mediation work, etc., peer mediation in schools and things like that to help address the school-to-prison pipeline. A lot of schools that I've partnered with have had issues where students are being kicked out of class for talking back to the teachers, or even for fights and things that happen, but they don't have a space where they can sit down and address some of their own issues. So I've partnered with entities like some St. Louis Public Schools. I've worked with the National Children's Defense Fund, which Marion Wright Edelman was the founder of that organization. Now Reverend Starsky Wilson is the head of that organization. So I've partnered with different entities to advance, still doing the same work I was doing when I was at a younger age, but trying to really focus in on young people and even adults who want to be involved.
Well, look here, I appreciate what you've been doing. I really, if within 10, 20 seconds, what's your projection? Well, the time is, I'm going to have to ask that question in the next go around, okay? So on that again, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And also to the audience, hopefully you were motivated by some of the words of wisdom that Jonathan has spoken, because everybody needs to belong to an organization that speaks truth to power and work to uplift humanity. We say join the Universal African Peoples Organization, and everyone should exercise your right to vote. So know the issues before you go to vote, but do vote at every election. On that note, may God bless each and every one of you.